The San Francisco 49ers have made a roster move today. They go out and get a veteran tight end in the form of Logan Thomas. They have signed him to a 1 year deal. We are going to talk about the impact that we can expect from Logan Thomas next year, how he's going to fit into the overall tight end room with the San Francisco 49ers. And we're going to talk about Brandon Aiyuk and how his deal won't be dramatically impacted by the Justin Jefferson mega deal that he just signed today, as the wide receiver market has completely exploded. But while the wide receiver market has exploded, I want you to explode that like button, smash it, and then you guys already know what to do. Drop an SDS in the chat, and let's talk about all the things that have been going on with the San Francisco 49ers right now. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. Did I misspeak on his name already? This has been something that has been ongoing. I like to formally blame my ADHD for this. This happens consistently. Logan Thomas, the 49ers have signed, not to be confused with Logan Ryan, whose name I may or may have not have said, but Logan Thomas is the newest San Francisco 49er. He has been confirmed to sign a 1 year deal with the San Francisco 49ers, according to Nick Wagner. It was originally reported from Mike Garafolo that the 49ers were in talks, or they were moving towards a deal with Logan Thomas. It is official. He is signed. The San Francisco 49ers get a veteran tight end to come in and fill a really big role for the San Francisco 49ers. Because as you guys already know, the 49ers lost their basically best backup tight end, which was Charlie Warner. Charlie Warner signed a 3-year, $12 million deal with the Atlanta Falcons. They also lost Ross Dwelley as well, but Charlie Warner filled and grew into a pretty big role with the San Francisco 49ers as their primary backup tight end, because of all the intricacies that they use their tight ends in the run game and all those different types of things. But now the San Francisco 49ers get a tight end who is a pretty quality pass catcher and can provide an immediate upgrade to the receiving acumen of the backup tight end versus what they have originally, or kind of what they've had. Because outside of George Kittle, the San Francisco 49ers haven't had a reliable pass catcher at tight end 2 since the last Washington tight end came over in the form of Jordan Reed. Now, Jordan Reed, for a second there, paired with George Kittle, and I think it was that 2020 season, that was an absolute nightmare. But for a second, it looked like the 49ers had one of the deadliest tight end duos with Jordan Reed and Kittle. Now, obviously, Jordan Reed just couldn't stay healthy, partly due to that MetLife turf that just tore everyone up. But I would say this is the most competent tight end 2 pass catcher that they have had since Jordan Reed in 2020. So 4 years. 4 years. The 49ers getting the best tight end 2 in recent memory. Hey, I like it. I'll take it. And when we look at what Logan Thomas did last year, first of all, this dude's huge. 6'6", 250 pounds. He was a former quarterback coming out of Virginia Tech. I remember watching Logan Thomas as a quarterback back in the day. Oh, it's making me feel super old. But I remember watching him as a quarterback at Virginia Tech, and he was a quality college quarterback back in the day. He was drafted in the 4th round, selected 120th overall by the Arizona Cardinals. So he comes back to the NFC West, this time with the 49ers, and he's bringing that 4.61 speed from the tight end position to play for the red and gold. Now, he will be 33 years old this year, so he's not a spring chicken by any stretch of the imagination. However, the 49ers do get a very competent veteran tight end, and I think this is what the 49ers needed at the tight end in the tight end room, because behind George Kittle, we had nothing but questions, right? When, like, all of us are very confident in George Kittle, and rightfully so. He was the only tight end last year to go for over 1,000 yards receiving. He's an all-pro. He's the people's tight end. It's George Kittle. We're not worried about George at all. But we do know George can get dinged up from time to time. He suffered an injury week 10, a core muscle injury that required off-season surgery that he is still recovering from. And I think that's why the 49ers went in to make this move, especially before mandatory minicamp that starts tomorrow, Tuesday, June 4th, because the conversation that we've been having on this channel for a good amount of time of this offseason is kind of like, what's the plan at tight end 2? Because this whole time I've been expecting this move, but it hasn't happened. And so in my head, partially the way that I was rationalizing this was, well, I guess the 49ers feel very confident with Braden Willis to be tight end 2 heading into this year, because Cameron Latu hasn't participated in OTAs. It doesn't sound like Latu will participate in mandatory minicamp either, which puts him, but Kittle did say that Latu is expected to be on track for training camp that is at the end of July. So that will be something that we see play out. But they did sign veteran tight end Eric Saubert, who is, I would say, less accomplished than a guy like Logan Thomas. Logan Thomas definitely has a ton of production, a decent amount of production to fall back on. And then you look at Jake Tonges, who was on the practice squad last year, and Mason Pline, who the 49ers added via undrafted free agency. But with the 49ers, they are bringing in a guy that has over 2,000 receiving yards up until this point in his career. Just last season, he put up 496 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns on 55 receptions and 76 targets. So it was a pretty solid season for him, considering that he did miss time with some injury. But nonetheless, you're getting a veteran guy, a former captain with the Commanders. He spent the last 4 seasons with the Commanders. His best year came in 2020 with the Commanders, when he really got a shot to be the starting tight end in the NFL. That's where he had 77 receptions on 114 targets, 744 yards, and 6 touchdowns. So this is a guy who comes in right away and will absolutely. Did I type in Logan Ryan Jesus, thank you. Dude, I've been doing this all day. Thank you for telling me this so I can make this adjustment in real time. I've literally in my head been like, stop saying Logan Ryan. I did a video on him. I said Logan Ryan. I'm like, okay, don't say Logan Ryan. Ryan. I don't even know if it's going to update. We'll see if it does. But yes, the 49ers didn't sign Logan Ryan. They signed Logan Thomas. Oh, good times. Good times. Apologies in advance. Living life with an ADHD brain is always a ton of fun, as you guys can tell. But it's not that big of a deal. But I do got to fix that. And I realized also, too, unfortunately, I think that is also streaming live on Twitter right now. They're like, we signed Logan Ryan? Who would have thought? Now, hold on. Let me try to fix this really quick because we did not sign Logan Ryan. We signed tight end Logan Thomas. That's who we signed. Logan Ryan. Oh, good stuff. I'm just going to delete you. You're deleted. All right. So, as I continue to fix all my titles, how are we feeling about the 49ers edition of Logan Thomas? Not to be confused with Logan Ryan. Let me know how you guys are feeling in the chat about this move. Logan Paul next. Get ready, baby. Get ready. If he stays healthy, it's great. But at 33, holy moly. I mean, we're getting a veteran. It's not like we are, getting a spry young chicken. I don't even know. I don't even know where my brain is going at this particular point. But for Logan Thomas, again, he's been the starter, a starting tight end for the last 4 years. At this stage in his career, he's moving into a backup role, and to be exactly that, to be the backup to George Kittle. Now, it's going to be fascinating to see how the 49ers actually use him within the offense because he can do all things. He's a quality blocker, a quality pass catcher, uh, all that stuff. What was pretty good. Michelle says that Steelers fan video you posted is my dad. Oh, from week one. Are we talking about the week one video from TikTok? So, anyways, I do think Logan can be someone that the 49ers rely on in the role in which he's going to be coming into play, right? Like Logan Thomas, barring injury, knock on wood, isn't necessarily expected to come in here. Like the way that I try to think about it is Charlie Warner, who was kind of in and out of being the 49ers backup tight end. He had 11 receptions over the 4 years with the 49ers. So I don't know what uh, production to expect from him. But what we can say is that you're getting a starting caliber tight end who was a captain, and he is a former quarterback, which means he sees the game a little bit differently. And you're putting him in a room with another veteran and in a locker room with a bunch of quality guys. And so I think you're getting a guy who you can rely on if you need to, because as it stands right now, like I said at the very beginning, there's a lot of questions behind George Kittle. Every single tight end is a question, at least with Logan Thomas. Oh, this is going to screw with me for a while. Um, at least with Logan Thomas, we know what he is. There's no question. We know he's instantly tight end two, and he's going to be a competent tight end two. Like, I would say this is a much better signing than the Tyler Croft signing when we got him from the New York Jets. I think that was in the 2023 offseason. And at the time, it was a decent tight end depth signing. Now, obviously, a lot of people don't remember that addition too fondly, but Tyler Croft did play a lot that year. So we'll see. I think this is a much better signing than the Tyler Croft one. And like I said, this is the most competent tight end two that the 49ers have had since Jordan Reed on paper. Now, obviously, we got to see Logan Thomas in training camp, see how he's moving. But you're bringing in a big body, big target guy for Brock Purdy. I think that's a good thing. Brock Purdy likes his tight ends. So this is it's a quality signing, considering it's a 1 year signing, and you're getting a guy for depth. So he, like we said earlier, Logan Thomas is joining the tight end room of George Kittle, Braden Willis, Cameron Latu, Eric Saubert, Jake Tonjes, and Mason Pline. But if there's anyone to be on high alert with this signing, it's Cameron Latu. Now, we already knew this. We knew Cameron Latu was already kind of on the bubble. But now, like, this guy has a legitimate chance at making this roster. Logan Thomas, if it were up to me, I would already pencil him in as a tight end two, just based on track record experience, what he brings to the table, to be able to allow guys like Braden Willis to continue to develop and, turn into a legitimate tight end in the NFL. Now, with Braden, I think he's been available. He's been on the roster. He's practiced. And I do believe George Kittle is optimistic about what Braden Willis can bring to the table. Now, Cameron Latu is a completely different conversation. Honestly, I was kind of perceiving the fact that the 49ers hadn't really brought in any tight ends as like maybe this is a sign that they are feeling good about Cameron Latu, but Cameron Latu did not participate in OTAs, and he's not going to participate in mandatory minicamp. So this, in fact, is not a good sign for Cameron Latu. The fact that he's still not participating at this time, I mean, George Kittle's talked about it, how it was huge for young players to be out there in OTAs, to be able to install and get all this stuff done. Without that, that becomes very challenging. So if there's anyone who should look at this signing as a potential threat to their roster spot moving forward, I would have to say it's Cameron Latu. I'm going to go ahead and say a way too early prediction of the depth chart is your locked in top three are absolutely going to be George Kittle, Braden Willis, and Logan Thomas. Who is going to force Kyle to keep four tight ends? because when you look at this roster, I already did a way too early 53-man roster projection. It's tight, man. It is tight. There's so much competition, and some of these rooms are so deep that it is going to be a challenge to cut this final 53. So if the 49ers are going to keep 4 tight ends, because they're going to have to borrow positions and they're going to have to do things um, to be able to build out this roster in a way.
Niners.
Yeah, say go Niners.
What?
Say let's go Niners.
Niners.
Let's go Niners.
Niners.
Yeah. Who's going to be tight end 2?
Wow.
Wow.
It's good.
Yeah, tight end 2.
What?
What?
Me.
What?
I want this.
Your Walker?
Hey, Mom.
Yeah. Where's your mommy? There she is. You want to go over there with her?
No.
Go say hi. Go get her. Yeah. All right. I have no idea what I was talking about before. I think we were talking about roster construction. Who's making? I think that's what we were talking about. So, anyways, I do anticipate that we got 3. We got 3. We need 4. We'll see if we need 4. We'll see if Eric Saubert, Latu, Tonjes, or Pline can convince Kyle Shanahan. Otherwise, shout out to my little one for the quick little cameo. His birthday is coming up here pretty soon too, which is crazy to think that it's almost been 2 years since he was born. I know a lot of you guys were along for the journey. I know some of you guys are new to the channel, but man, if you guys didn't know, my son was born 3 months too early, which meant we spent 3 months in the NICU. It was a crazy experience for our family. To see him in that state for 2-3 months was really difficult, but as you can see, very healthy, very happy, loves the Niners, and I can't believe it's already been almost 2 years since that crazy situation. But you can see he's going to be a very happy future Niner fan. So at least he's not a Cowboy fan or something crazy like that. I don't even know how that would happen, but not in this house. No, sir. No, sir. All right. Right? That was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was going to the hospital every single day. I would do Niners content, go to the hospital, come back. I'd go to training camp, go to the hospital, come back, do content. It was crazy. It was a crazy time. But makes you appreciate these times even better. All that good stuff. He's very happy. Very happy. Troy says, "Wow, my little girl was born the same way." Troy knows, man. Troy knows. The NICU will will make it stronger. That's for sure. And I think it works on the kids too because he's the toughest one out of them all, for sure, the toughest one. And I think it's because he grew up in the NICU to start his life. R.I.P. Larry Allen, 100%. 49ers offensive lineman for a little while. Obviously, majority of his amazing career was with the Dallas Cowboys. But man, if you're just a football purist, you love Larry Allen. Larry Allen is arguably the go offensive lineman. Um, he's in that conversation. He is one of the goats, man. He's just an OG. Was it 52, 53, 3 years old? Gone way too early, way too early. But yeah, Larry Allen. I don't care how long of a time it was, but definitely a 49ers legend. Just a beast, man. Just an absolute beast. So tough to see that, man, for sure. But the other thing that has kind of been percolating in the 49ers universe is the whole Justin Jefferson contract situation. So obviously, Justin Jefferson got absolutely paid. He beat Nick Bosa as the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. 4 years, $140 million, 110 guaranteed, 88.7 fully guaranteed. That has him. That has his YPA 1 million over Bosa, and the total guaranteed I think was like 0.7 more than Bosa's. So it seems crystal clear that Justin Jefferson wasn't after being the highest paid wide receiver ever. That was kind of to be expected. He said, I want to be the highest paid non quarterback in the NFL. And the Vikings give him the contract. Man, I want to do a little bit of reminiscing because I loved Justin Jefferson coming out of LSU. I have all the receipts. I mocked him to the San Francisco 49ers in my final the I do like my final mock draft at the end of every draft season because to be honest, my first mock and my last mock, oh, that's not true. They all have different contexts. But when I do mock drafts, it doesn't make sense for me as a content creator to, you know, just mock the same exact people to the 49ers every single mock draft I do. So I really try to make it an emphasis to change my mocks. But in my final mock draft of that particular season in which Justin Jefferson came out with Brandon Aiyuk, I had the 49ers trading back to then take Justin Jefferson. But the point being is, for me personally, I just love Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson was weirdly underrated coming out of the draft, and partly due because he played predominantly out of the slot. So many people, draft pundits, considering where he played, just thought he was a slot wide receiver. And but Justin, for me, love Justin. I fought that battle, through the pre-draft process of explaining to people that Justin Jefferson is a legitimate wide receiver one. And I always said it should be called the Big Four and not the Big Three, because the Big Three coming out of that draft class was CeeDee Lamb, Henry Ruggs, and Jerry Jeudy. And for me, I was like, why isn't this called the Big Four? Because he deserves to be in there. My two top favorite wide receivers in that particular class were CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson. I did not like Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs. I was just like, he's okay. I didn't see anything crazy special out of Henry Ruggs. But sure enough, CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson uh, were some of my favorites. But it was Justin Jefferson who. So what's really interesting about this situation before we get to Brandon Aiyuk is CeeDee Lamb going to try to top this deal? Is he going to try to come over the top and maybe get $141 million per year on average to try to get ahead of Justin Jefferson? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens because I do believe Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb are in the same tier of talent. So if it happened that way, it would make sense to me. But one of the big things with this is obviously the wide receiver market that has completely exploded. And just Brandon Aiyuk being in the middle of it all, just sitting there, sitting back and watching it all play out. He's got to be very happy that with the way the market has played out, because it has absolutely played out to his benefit. So I do believe, based on some things that I've been hearing, I feel really confident with where the 49ers are at with BA. I think that we still have some time based on kind of what I've been hearing, but I'm very optimistic about it because there is a bit of a gap, but I see that gap being bridged. I think a majority of the work in regards to structure and all that type of stuff has been pretty much laid out. So it's kind of getting through this one hurdle, and then I do think that we will be able to put a bow on this Brandon Aiyuk situation. I think he'll be paid and he will be a San Francisco 49er uh, for a while. So I'm not concerned about that. I know there are a lot of different opinions from the fan base on Brandon Aiyuk. We go through this every single year where when money starts getting involved, fans will start to, I think, kind of like turn away from the player because it was clear as day that heading into before this contract negotiation started, that Brandon Aiyuk was, you can make the argument that he was one of the biggest fan favorites around. You literally couldn't find a 49er fan saying one bad thing about Brandon Aiyuk. But for whatever reason, when it comes to these players going after what's rightfully theirs and what they've earned in a industry that prints money based on how much they make, that people seem to have, I would say some people have soured on Brandon Aiyuk simply for going after what the market dictates. And I get it in a certain sense, but at a certain sense, I don't get it because from a fan perspective, it's not your money. One, two, you have zero idea of the intricacies of the deal, how the triggers work, what's incentives, what's guaranteed. We just don't know. So to see people like get like vocally frustrated with the amount to be paid out, listen, the amount is dictated by the market. That it is what it is. It's not like Brandon Aiyuk and his representation are pulling this number out of thin air and being like, listen, this is nowhere near what anyone else is getting paid, but this is what we deserve to get paid, and this is what it should be. When Brandon Aiyuk and his representation are going after a dollar amount, it's based on them projecting out what the market rate is. And if anything, the price in which the Brandon Aiyuk and the his representation are after has only been proven by the way these wide receivers have been getting paid. So the way that I'm looking at it, you look at his numbers, you look at his production, you compare them in that range of Jalen Waddle, I would say Amon-Ra St. Brown, Michael Pittman, all those guys that have been getting paid, his ask is right around there. And guess what? That's most likely what the 49ers are ultimately going to pay him because that's what the market dictates. He's his figures, I would assume, aren't crazy compared to what's being paid out for other players in a similar situation. Now, obviously, I can understand. We got a comment from One Kingdom says, "I think we have too many stars on one team to pay him like that, but I hope he gets paid, even if it's not with us." My whole thing with that is, I have a hard time not paying someone because I remember the last time the 49ers opted not to pay a star player and they traded him instead, and that was DeForest Buckner. And how many years ago was that we traded Defoe? Did we trade him in that 2020 draft? I have seen comments as recently as this year saying we should have never traded DeForest Buckner. It's a double-edged sword, man. If you want good talent, you gotta pay him. You gotta pay him. And listen, if you're paying Brandon Aiyuk, let's say Brandon Aiyuk gets $28 million per year on average. In 3 years, that will be a mid-range deal. That will be like the middle ground. Remember when Jimmy Garoppolo signed his deal after 5 games? I think he signed for $27.5 million YPA, and that was the highest amount that a quarterback had ever earned. And what did Kirk Cousins just sign coming off an ACL? 45. I think what is Patrick Mahomes up to 55? So it might sound like a lot now, but guess what? The NFL is doing a phenomenal job at being able to keep its end user entertained with its product, which is going to translate into more TV deals, more marketing money, which means the cap is going to continue to rise. We saw the cap make a massive jump this year, and it's going to make a massive jump next year, and then the year after that. And by the time we look back at Brandon Ayuk's deal, it's going to look like Debo's deal. Right now, Debo's getting paid $23 million YPA. After seeing these deals go down, where now the new high is set at 35, 23 YPA seems pretty reasonable. That doesn't sound that crazy for an all-pro wide receiver. So just like we're talking with BA, if he gets 28 YPA, That is going to not sound crazy at all in just a year or two. So that's the whole point with, like, I think fans looking in the right now, the micro, like just looking through a lens of right now, is that you can't do that. Because one, you sign Brandon Aiyuk, they're going to be able to open up more cap space for this year. So he's not even going to really count against the cap this year because they're going to be able to push that forward. And as we know, the 49ers have all different kinds of ways to trigger certain things to be able to make adjustments to make the cap work. And I think also too, we just have to keep it 100. Like in 3 years, the roster is going to look insanely different than it looks right now. So not only with the cap continuing to rise and going up, there's going to be other players that aren't on this team. There's going to be more money that opens up. We're going to have to obviously cross that bridge um, with the situation with Brock Purdy and what his contract is going to look like. But get prepared, ladies and gentlemen. All this, like, you see all these 49er fans kind of divided about Brandon Ayuk's contract. Oh, just wait till Brock Purdy's contract is up. You guys don't like contract negotiation offseason talks? Guys, we haven't even got to Brock Purdy. Are you guys prepared to have the conversation that Brock Purdy could be potentially getting $55 million YPA? And what that conversation will be like, and what the fans will like. 49er fans love Brock right now, but I can already see it. I can already see it. Fans are going to flip on Brock so fast. The second they have to think about paying Brock like that much money, they're going to be like, wait a second. Wait, we have to pay Brock money that we don't actually have to pay him. It's just coming from, I get the notion. The notion is you pay players, you have to save elsewhere, meaning you likely move on from some players, et cetera, et cetera. I get that part of it. I get that's the main gripe. The main gripe is, okay, we pay this guy, we can't have that guy. I get that. But it's just, man, it's business. It is what it is. I don't think, you know, I don't think it's that big of a of an issue. I think people are making it a bigger issue than it needs to be. Uh, and that, I think it's based on pure emotion too. Like, I think people are just emotional. We have this idea of what we think someone's worth, and then we see, oh, they want a little bit more, then we're like, well, they're not really worth all that. But honestly, I feel like if you want the 49ers to go back to the Super Bowl next year, you need Brandon Aiyuk. You can't have just Debo Samuel, rookie Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings, Ronnie Bell. I mean, you can get it done, but I mean, in the sense of, like, you can still go out and compete, but I feel like you have to have BA as a part of that. So B. Lawrence says, I don't think reasonable fans will hate paying Brock. Listen, I feel like that every year. I feel like reasonable fans wouldn't hate paying Brandon Ayuk, but here we are. A lot of people, at least the ones who comment, seem to have a lot to say against paying Brandon Ayuk. So listen, if they're having a hard time stomaching the potential of a 28 to 30 YPA for BA, are they going to be able to stomach a 55 YPA for Brock Purdy? I don't know. For me, I don't try to concern myself too much with those types of things. Like the people who know best know all the intricacies and nuances of those deals, because there's a lot of information about those deals that we don't know. Most fans won't ever know. They just see what it looks like and how it plays out over the years. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I think I think you get it done, man. Oh, they're not paying BA 35. No, not even close. I don't so the this is my perception of how it's going with Brandon Aiyuk. Brandon Aiyuk and his representation early on in the process say, we want this amount, these years, this number, these things that go into it. We want this. I don't think that has changed much since all of these deals have popped off. This is how that I'm perceiving it, is that right out the Super Bowl, they knew how much they wanted. They knew what their target was, and they knew where the projections were and were going to be. And so and we talked about it too. We had these conversations throughout this process. We said Amon-Ra St. Brown is the deal. Amon-Ra early on said he was looking for 25 to 30 YPA very early on in the offseason. And I came on here and I said, that's the sweet spot, 25 to 30. Because if that's what Amon-Ra's angling for, then I guarantee you that's what Aiyuk's angling for. And then we find out what he gets paid. And when you look at the Amon-Ra St. Brown deal, his last year is effectively a dummy deal in order to get it that high. So there's not a lot of value in that fourth deal or in that fourth year because the team can opt out and it's an extremely high amount. And the point of it being extremely high amount is that a team will either renegotiate before they get to that fourth year or they get out of the contract. But it's designed to inflate the YPA. So this is effectively how I'm looking at it. Amon-Ra St. Brown's the target in regards to deal. I don't think the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk are too far off. I think that something will get done from a timing perspective. Can't speak on that. That's just something that the 49ers do. They have it's almost become like SOP, standard operating procedure, that they're just going to take a long time, that they're just going to sit back, let a wide receiver market explode like it has, rather than being proactive and getting it done. They would rather just sit back and let it play out. And do I think there are some negatives that come along with that? I do, because one, like I just talked about, something about these long negotiations really somehow find a way to turn the fan base against the player. And honestly, if I am trying to think of this from, the 49ers have multiple perspectives. But if I had to put myself in the 49ers perspective of like continuing to build, and I don't know how the 49ers view this. I don't know if the 49ers care about individual branding and individual like play, like whatever. But BA went from universally loved by the fan base to he's kind of in the crosshairs based on a lot of the commentary that I'm seeing from fans because of how he's been forced to have to leverage his platforms in the negotiating process to ultimately get what he wants. It's like my thought process is if what if we understand it's going to be a hard negotiation, but what if we created an environment where we don't have to force the player to make these public situations to ensure best mental health for all involved, including the fan base. And I guarantee you that people involved in these deals are having stressful nights. I don't know. It's just like, is there a way that this could be avoided while all things are still accomplished? I just know that Debo took a lot of heat and that he's still kind of taking a lot of heat from that situation. Bosa's taking a lot of heat. People aren't letting that go with Bosa with his slow start to the year. And now what I'm seeing is fans saying, like, oh no, we can't pay him because the last two contract negotiations that turned into holdouts turned into slow starts to the year. And they're like, oh, we don't want to do that. So we don't pay him. It's just like, man, can we get ahead of this? Can we, Jawan Jennings got paid at OTAs. Good for him. In a very quiet, in a very non-public setting. And it was met well. Good response. Yeah, we got Jawan paid. I know perception isn't everything. But it just feels like these types of contract negotiations that we've seen year in and year out are really just creating, I feel like, a lot of unneeded negativity. And again, I'm not going to sit here and say I know what's going on or I've been in those things. It's simply an outside perception, an outside perspective. And it just feels like it creates a lot of unnecessary confusion, division, and bad feeling. So I don't know. I hope that the BA situation gets done sooner rather than later. But I do anticipate that, at least my hope is that BA gets paid uh paid before training camp. Contract negotiations will be private and off social media platforms. I agree with that. But at what point have the 49ers created an environment where that needs to happen? That's just another element to it. It's like, did we ever expect a Nick Bosa holdout? No. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. I it takes two to tango in these scenarios. So a lot of what I'm speaking from is kind of assumed. But I agree. I think I I get it that details or deadlines really help move things along. Um, and I agree. Bosa didn't go to social media. No, he didn't. He didn't at all. It was just the fact that it was a legitimate holdout, um, that made everything kind of stressful. So again, I'm not speaking from a place where I know what's going on in between those doors. Uh, at the 49ers situation, it just becomes a situation where we have to talk about it. I would prefer not to talk about it. I would prefer to believe that, or make it seemed or presented by either the organization or the player, that, hey, things are going fine. We're talking, we're chatting, nothing's crazy going down, and we get a deal done in a timely fashion, and we get away from, I guess, some of the outward facing contract negotiations. Is basically what it all comes down to. But I think there's I would have to believe that's it's a double-edged sword, right? Like, I don't believe that these players are instantly going outward because they feel like if they didn't need to do that, they wouldn't do that. Is basically what I'm trying to say. Is I feel like they feel they have to do that um, to get this done. Because I remember I got into an argument with Benjamin Albright because when Kyler Murray scrubbed his social media of all things Cardinals, they're like, "Oh, this is just a marketing strategy." And I was like, "Marketing strategy? If this was a marketing strategy, this would be the worst marketing strategy in the world because all it did was take all the people, all the Arizona fans who supported and rocked with Kyler and it pissed them off." Now, marketing strategy and a contract negotiation strategy are two different things. And I think that's kind of what I'm more speaking to. The marketing aspect of it is from an optics standpoint, it really hurts the optics portion of it. Because we've had multiple of these now. So I don't know. I'm rambling and ranting at this point. I think also too a part of it is just like of covering it for so many years. It's just like I think we would prefer to not have to do it this way because typically you look across the league and it's pretty rare to see these consistently happen with other teams. We see it from time to time. I just don't think we see it as like it's become commonplace for us, where I think it's more of a rarity with other teams. Anyways, we'll see how it all plays out. But I expect it to get done. My hope is that it just gets done before we get to training camp, so we can get them out there and get up to speed ASAPolus. Definitely don't want Brandon Aiyuk hold out. I think that's the last thing that we want is a Brandon Aiyuk holdout. But 49ers made a signing today, so that's good. Tight end Logan Thomas. Get a veteran on a 1-year deal already tied into for the San Francisco 49ers. And obviously Justin Jefferson gets paid, completely obliterates the wide receiver market. And hey, we'll see what the actual impact has to Brandon Aiyuk. But I do anticipate that we will get some good news, hopefully before training camp starts. But that means that would give us about a month, almost 2 months, almost 2 months. So the question becomes: does Brandon Aiyuk show up tomorrow? Does Christian McCaffrey show up tomorrow? Do they participate if they do show up? So it'll be interesting to see if that actually goes down. Sterling says, "What is CMC holding out for?" There's no official word on if he's holding out or if he has just not attended OTAs. I think we'll have a better idea of mandatory minicamp. But basically, what we've heard, and again, I think it kind of correlates to the optics part of what we just talked about, is he's not holding out, but his remaining deal has no guaranteed money on it, and that would be something that he would like. And if you guys don't recall, Raheem Mostert got into a heated situation with the 49ers front office over trying to get guaranteed money on his contract. He was paid as a special teamer, and he was brought in as a special teamer, turned into running back one. He wanted to convert part of his contract into guaranteed money, and that's, I think, when we had his agent tweet out that they were going to request a trade and like all this crazy stuff. So the the contract shenanigans, it's I would say par for the course. And the reason why I call it shenanigans is because I don't know enough that goes into it to understand why this is a constant thing with the San Francisco 49ers, but it is. And so with CMC, the thought is that he wants either a little bit of a raise or he wants guaranteed dollars on the remainder of his contract. Obviously, from a production standpoint, he's considered the best running back in the NFL. He's in a system that uses him like no other, uses him the best possible. And we've talked about this before, like before it was a topic. We were like, because I had mentioned, like, yeah, we talk about all these other players needing to be paid, but when are we going to talk about Christian McCaffrey needing to get paid? And I wasn't expecting it to happen this quickly. But it could, but it's not confirmed. I want to be clear with that. It's not official that it's a holdout, but you get a lot of wink, wink, nod, nod. It feels like it could be a holdout from some of the beat reporters and some of the other things. So we'll see. We'll see. Players, I'm not really sure what the media schedule is for mandatory minicamp. Actually, I think it's right here. Let me see. So tomorrow practice is at 10:40. Kyle Shanahan speaks at noon. There'll be some players available. And then on Wednesday, practice 10:40, and then Nick Sorensen at noon. So Tuesday, Wednesday this week, we should definitely hear who's here, who's not here. So there is a chance that we find out tomorrow that Christian McCaffrey could be holding out. I don't know. We're going to find out. We're going to find out tomorrow a little bit more. I agree. Logan Thomas is a solid tight end for us. So I think that's a good move. It was a move that I'd kind of been waiting for. So we'll see. We shall see. So big day tomorrow for some updates. CMC, does he show up? Brandon Aiyuk, does he show up? Because keep in mind, it's mandatory. So from what I've heard from other reporters is that guys who have gone through contract negotiations in the past, like let's say Debo or Bosa, they showed up. They just didn't participate. So we'll see. But there's a good chance. There's a good chance that both do. I think that makes me feel better about the thought process of them being there, because even when Debo and Bosa were going through their negotiation, they still showed up. They just didn't participate in mandatory minicamp. So I would assume maybe something similar. Maybe the San Francisco 49ers absolutely surprise us tomorrow with a deal of Brandon Aiyuk, and they let us have the entire summer to not talk about Brandon Aiyuk's contract. They give Christian McCaffrey a little pay raise, so we don't have to talk about that the entirety of the summer. Woo! A boy could only dream. A boy could only dream. But I'm not going to hold my breath for that. But if that happened, that would be fantastic. Could you imagine an entire summer of just no quarterback controversy, no contract controversy? Woo! That would be a fire summer. But one can dream, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But appreciate everyone for tapping in today. Appreciate all y'all. Please smash that like button on your way out. Appreciate everyone tapping in. I'm out of here. I'll see you guys tomorrow. We got a lot of football to cover tomorrow with mandatory mini camp. So make sure you got those post notifications on, and we'll get everything out as fast as I can. Appreciate you for tapping in. I'm out of here for now. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to